Flight attendant who was on board this Delta flight is pointing fingers, accusing the airline of showing a reckless disregard for passenger safety by using an inexperienced pilot in a bombshell new lawsuit. Vanessa Miles was traveling as a passenger when the flight crash landed and burst into flames after flipping over and skidding on the tarmac. Miraculously, all 76 passengers and 4 crew members survived the horrific crash.
Wow. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel, watching the videos entirely. Comments down below. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
And at that time, Jessica got up and she said, call 911, I can't breathe, and then she collapsed. And at that point, I understand that the assistant manager hit her one more time, but even before that, she was trying to go back into the back office and try to delete the video of the attack.
This is so crazy. This 24-year-old clocked into her job at 7-Eleven and was murdered by her manager. This is Jessica McLaughlin. She was working her shift at 7-Eleven in Melrose Avenue in Hollywood when her manager, Valeria Pera, attacked her during an argument. This is the assistant manager, which still has not been found or arrested, by the way. It's not clear what the argument was about, but she allegedly threw a bottle at Jessica, pinned her to the ground, and then sat on her chest. There were other co-workers there while this was all going down, and they said that they tried to get Valeria off Jessica's chest, but then Valeria tried to attack them. Mind you, she was sitting on Jessica's chest for over 10 minutes, and when she finally got off, Jessica was unconscious, and the workers tried to do CPR on her, and while they were performing CPR, Valeria ran to the back and tried to delete all the surveillance footage. They called police right away, but Valeria fled on a bike and still hasn't been found. This is so sad because Jessica was declared brain dead at the hospital, and after almost 2 weeks, her family decided to remove her from life support. Jessica's family then said that Valeria bullied and harassed her at work for a while, but they never thought that it would ever come to this.
People who gained real-life superpowers after an accident.
Talk about it.
Paget was a party animal who hated school and got terrible grades. But one day, 2 men savagely robbed and attacked Jason outside of a karaoke bar, leaving him with a severe concussion. The concussion caused him to become a mathematical genius and made him learn fractal geometry, which he had never been taught before. When Derek Amato was 39 years old, he hit his head after diving into a swimming pool and was diagnosed with a concussion and 35% hearing loss. After that, Derek began to see black and white keys in his head, and out of nowhere, he began to play the piano like an expert. Ben McMahon was in a car accident in 2015 and fell into a coma for a week. When he woke up, he could speak perfect Chinese, even though he had only learned the basics as a child. Tony Ciceria was struck by lightning after making a call in a phone booth. Within a couple of days, he was addicted to music, which he wasn't before. After trying the piano, he became a musical artist, composing his own music.
Damn, we got some real life superheroes, bro. In the big 2025.
A flight attendant who was on board this Delta flight is pointing fingers, accusing the airline of showing a reckless disregard for passenger safety by using an inexperienced pilot in a bombshell new lawsuit. Vanessa Miles was traveling as a passenger when the flight crash landed and burst into flames after flipping over and skidding on the tarmac. Miraculously, all 76 passengers and 4 crew members survived the horrific crash.
Wow.
Miles was left unconscious and dangling upside down by her seatbelt following the accident. Now Miles is seeking $75 million in damages, claiming the airline knowingly assigned an inexperienced and inadequately trained pilot to the flight, causing the fiery crash. The lawsuit claims the airline cut corners on safety by rushing pilots through training programs and knowingly putting passengers at risk. The unidentified captain of the plane had worked for Endeavor Air, a subsidiary of Delta, for 18 years.
Did this late?
For 18 years? So how the heck did the plane flip? It can't be from an inexperience, right, bro? He did 18 years on a job. What's going on with these planes now, man? You gotta be safe, bro, when you traveling somewhere nowadays. Be careful.
Did actually call herself from the future? User Mystery Mint submitted a story to unexplainedmysteries.com. She said that she often experiences strange phenomenon, but this one still remains a mystery to her. She said that in high school, each classroom had a phone that could receive a call from any other room in the school, as long as that room had a telephone too. One day during lunch hour, she was inside her art classroom, waiting for a call from the office. She was growing impatient, so she picked up the phone and called the office instead. She said that the phone usually always worked, but this time she just heard static. She waited to hear the secretary, but she just heard more static, so she said hello. But still, nothing. She suddenly got embarrassed and said, "Sorry, wrong number," and hung up. She said that not even a second later, the phone rang. She thought that it was the office calling to yell at her because it sounded like a student was playing a prank on them. What she heard instead still confuses her. She picked up the phone ready to apologize, but instead, she just heard static. Before she could say anything, she heard someone say in an all too familiar voice, "Hello?" Then more static. She said that she couldn't say anything, she just froze. There was more static, and then they said, "Sorry, wrong number," and hung up. She wonders if she somehow managed to call herself from the future.
Calling ourselves from the future? I don't know. Could that just been a static mix-up? I didn't even know freaking.
This 10-year-old
That could
girl
happen.
beat an alligator in a 1v1. In 2017, 10-year-old Juliana Oso was in knee-deep water at Moose Park in Orlando, Florida, when something horrific happened. Out of nowhere, a nearly 9-foot-long alligator surged from the water and lashed onto her leg. The force dragged her under as the reptile tried to spin and pull her deeper. But Juliana didn't panic. She fought back. She began punching the alligator as hard as she could, but nothing worked. Then, in a terrifying moment of clarity, she remembered something she learned at Gatorland, a local wildlife park, that if you block a gator's nostrils, it can't breathe. While still trapped in the gator's jaws, Juliana shoved 2 fingers up its nose. The alligator, unable to breathe, released her. Bleeding and in pain, she ran for her life and screamed for help. Park rangers rushed her to the hospital where she was treated for puncture wounds and received 10 stitches. Miraculously, she survived with no life-threatening injuries, and the craziest part, her parents said she was calm the entire time, even joking later that she fought off an alligator and won. At just 10 years old, Juliana turned a deadly attack into a story of survival and pure courage.
She's a legend.
Phobia. I'm going to show you 5 photos. If you feel too uncomfortable to make it to the 5th photo, then you could have a phobia. So let's go. Number 1.
I'm cool.
Feeling uncomfortable yet?
Still good.
And how about this? Nearly there. Last one.
It's like something out of the Anaconda movie.
If those photos made you feel uncomfortable, then you could have a phobia, which is the fear of snakes. Follow now to see if you can make it through the next phobia test.
We still don't mess with snakes over here, Seekers, though. That's a no, dude.
Something has changed with La Pasqualita. Like, something is very, very different with this mannequin. If you don't remember this story too well, she resides in Chihuahua, Mexico. She's been in a store shop window for over 100 years. It's believed for a long time that the mannequin would move or had like an all-knowing stare. It would come alive at night, like a lot of like folklore stuff. The more morbid legend and the more true crime-oriented legend is that she is actually sort of an embalming experiment. Possibly the former shop owner's daughter who died tragically on her wedding day over 100 years ago. People tend to fixate on the hyper-realistic details of this mannequin where they talk a lot about the hands, the realistic fingernails, they talk about veins in the face. But the weird part is that she went missing for a period of time. She was removed from the window and then reappeared looking like this. It looks like La Pasqualita. It does, but there's something that's very different. She looks polished or refreshed, like they repainted her. Very curious to hear what you think.
Bible
switch out
in real life. Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on water.
Interesting.
Synagogue, where Jesus would have gone. The Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed before he was taken. The Jordan River, where Jesus was baptized.
Water looks so clear.
Tomb of Jesus. Noah's Ark. in and water came out.
Looks like a cane.
Jesus nailed to the cross on Mount Calvary.
Doja Cat came at Sydney Sweeney and now she's paying the price. So at this point, we all know that Sydney Sweeney had a very controversial American Eagle ad. Well, Doja Cat decided to parody this ad and sort of come at Sydney Sweeney with the way that she talks in this parody. And it ended up backfiring, and now Doja Cat is getting canceled. So according to people online, Sydney Sweeney's jeans ad is based on an ideology that a certain German man would love. Put more simply, people are saying it is an arsist ad. Well, if you don't know, Doja Cat has a very well-documented arsist past that is a lot worse than anything Sydney Sweeney has done. So because of this dig that Doja Cat took at Sydney Sweeney, this arsist past is being brought back up, and now everyone canceling Sydney has switched their targets from Sydney to Doja. Basically, everyone's saying that Doja Cat has absolutely no room to speak out against Sydney when she's done significantly worse. People have done things like repost old screenshots, old videos, old pictures of Doja, and there's even people making whole video essays on Doja, going over every single thing that she has done in her past that would be considered arsist.
People who gained real life.
Man, I need you guys to stand below on the Sydney Sweeney jeans, I guess, controversy. I don't know, man. People going back and forth. I'm just sitting back and observing, man. I'm that mean, bro. Learn to sit back and observe. Not everything needs a reaction.
Superpowers after an accident. In 1971, Edwin Robinson was in a severe car crash that made him completely blind and partially deaf. 9 years later, he ventured outside his home to rescue his pet chicken from the rain when he was suddenly struck by lightning. But due to the high voltage blast from the lightning strike, he miraculously could see and hear perfectly fine again. During Adam Rayner's early life, he suffered from dwarfism, and at his tallest, he came in at 4.5 feet. But at the age of 21, he developed a tumor on his pituitary gland, which led him to grow to a staggering 7 feet 8 inches within a few years. This made him the only human to ever be classified as both a dwarf and a giant in the same lifetime. Rory Curtis got into a car accident that was so severe he fell into a coma for several days. Thankfully, he came out of it, and when he woke up, he could magically speak perfect French, even though he had only taken a few French lessons 12 years before the accident.
A 70-year-old woman's life was taken by an elephant, and once it was time for her funeral, it came back. 70-year-old Maya Murmu lived in a small village in India. She lived a simple life. She would help her family with chores and would collect water from the village well every morning. On June 22nd of 2022, Maya went to fetch water like she always did. But that morning, a wild elephant believed to have wandered from a nearby sanctuary charged at her. It trampled Maya and she died instantly from her injuries. Once the village heard about this, they were heartbroken, shocked, and mourning her loss. Later that night, her family and neighbors gathered for a traditional funeral. As the ceremony was beginning, the same elephant returned. It stormed the gathering and once again attacked Maya's lifeless body. The elephant trampled Maya's body again and then fled into the forest. Nobody knows why that same elephant returned, but many believe that elephants don't forget. They have deep memories and sometimes emotional responses. To this day, no one in that village knows why that same elephant attacked twice or if Maya was just in the wrong place, wrong time.
What did Maya do? For elephant to spin the block on her, bro? Yeah, that did something, man. And I heard that elephants have like excellent memory.
He turned plastic waste into gasoline and now he's missing. So this guy, Julian Brown, found a way to turn plastic into usable gasoline for vehicles. Well, now Julian has gone missing under mysterious circumstances, and he actually left us some hints that something might happen to him in his previous videos. You see, in one of these videos, he opened the video by saying he's not going to live long. And then he later in the video goes on to mention how threats won't derail him from what he's trying to do. Julian also made a video where he said that there was odd stuff going on, and he said that he was, quote, under attack. Now, if you put two and two together, it kind of seems like Julian may have been threatened for what he's doing. I mean, there is a meme that whenever someone's about to disrupt a big industry, such as the oil or medical industry, they end up mysteriously going missing. Now, Julian's fans think that something very sinister happened to him, so they're trying to bring as much attention to this as they possibly can. For all we know right now, Julian could just simply be on vacation, as it hasn't been too terribly long since he posted last. But like I said, his fans seem to think otherwise.
Bullies called this kid a monkey, but what the internet did when they heard his story will restore your faith in humanity. This 21-year-old boy is named Zanzaman Ellie, and his whole life he has been bullied for the way he looks. Zanzaman has a medical issue that makes his head smaller than the rest of his body, and people in his village bully him and call him a monkey because he eats grass, climbs trees, and just lives an unusual lifestyle. He was bullied and beaten by all the people in the village because he was seen as an animal and not a human being. And the more he was bullied and pushed around, the more he feared people. It caused him to run away from home every single day and into the jungle, which made his family extremely worried because there are dangerous animals in the jungle. But after Zanzaman's story went viral, a YouTuber named Afromax started a GoFundMe for the family, which raised a ton of money. $6,000 to be specific. Afromax gave his mom all of the money and they actually bought a brand new home to give Zanzaman a better life. People who are one in a million.
W's,
this
man.
girl's name is Zhang Rufang and she is over 100 years old. But a few years ago, something strange happened. She started growing a horn on her head. At first, it started off small, but now it's grown up to 6 centimeters in length. But the craziest part is she's actually starting to grow a second horn on the other side. And doctors have offered to remove it from her head, but she refuses. Before I show you the craziest one, I just found a way you can find your celebrity lookalike, and apparently I look like Mr. Beast. If you want to know who your celebrity lookalike is, just press this link in the comments. Next up is Nam Yosoy, and he has perfect night vision. And the strange part about this is both his parents have brown eyes, but he has blue eyes. When everyone else sees darkness, he sees perfectly in the middle of the night.
I mean, a big part of his fortune has to be gone by now, and now he has all these civil lawsuits. Will there be anything left?
It's my understanding and it's my assumption that Mr. Combs has plenty of money, plenty of cash, and plenty of assets to pay his lawyers and to pay out any judgment that will potentially be brought against him. That's my understanding, and that's my hope as we pursue these cases. Certainly, defending a criminal case with, I think he had 2 rows of defense attorneys. Yeah. I know that is not cheap. We have certainly had circumstances where we have won judgments against, those who allege that they're millionaires, billionaires, but refuse to sort of cooperate with the collection process. And we then have to pursue those judgments. Unfortunately, I would say it's one of the flaws in the American judicial system that while paying judgments is not optional, it's mandatory. You still have to sometimes go and chase those judgments. But again, we are moving forward under the assumption that if there is a judgment against Mr. Combs, that we will be able to collect on it and we will pursue collection on it.
Videos that
Isn't he a billionaire?
have a disturbing backstory. This cheesy dating show from the 1970s shows Rodney Alcala winning a date with the female contestant. Rodney was believed to have killed up to 130 women and appeared on the dating show during his killing spree. Luckily for the female contestant, she didn't go on a date with Rodney as she felt he gave off a creepy vibe. This video shows Chris Watts pleading for the return of his missing pregnant wife and 2 young daughters. At the time of this interview, he had already killed his pregnant wife and 2 daughters and put their bodies in oil tanks. And at the end of the interview, he has asked this question.
Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here.
The woman you are looking at is going to do something that's going to shock the world. This is Amy Carlson, or also known as Mother God. Amy was a regular suburban mom who worked at McDonald's, loved singing, and lived a pretty normal life. But something changed around 2006 when she became deeply obsessed with conspiracy theories and had this divine intervention that she was sent from God. She began claiming she was an eternal sent to save humanity from all of its weaknesses. Some of her wild claims were she has lived 534 past lives, including being Jesus himself, Cleopatra, and even Marilyn Monroe. Over time, she built a cult-like following and created a group amongst themselves called Love Has Won. The outside world, this looked like a spiritual community meant to promote positivity, but inside was much, much darker. They treated her like a god, and she even created these strict rules such as no negativity, no talking back, and you must be loyal to her at all time. If the group members broke any of these rules, she would make them starve. In April of 2021, police were called to a remote house in Colorado, and the scene looked like something out of a horror movie. Her body was found in a sleeping bag covered in Christmas lights, surrounded by essential oils and glitter in what looked like a makeshift shrine. Her skin had a grayish purple tint to it, and her eyeballs were missing. The worst part is the followers were inside of the home, and some even sleeping within inches of her corpse. One of the followers even had a child there, and none of them were panicking because Amy had just ascended and she would return. 7 of the members were arrested, but all charges were eventually dropped. But to this day, some of her followers still continue to post online claiming that Amy will return. Be sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
3 conspiracy theories about presidents. Number 3, George W. Bush and 9/11s. One of the most controversial and widely discussed conspiracy theories concerning American presidents involves George W. Bush and the attacks of September 11th, 2001. Some conspiracy theorists believe that the Bush administration had prior knowledge of the attacks, or worse, that they orchestrated them. Although these claims have been widely debunked by various investigations, they remain a topic of debate and speculation for many. Number 2, assassination of Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor, the 12th President of the United States, died suddenly in 1850 after just 16 months in office. While his death was attributed to natural causes, some believe he was poisoned because of his anti-slavery views. In the 1990s, his remains were exhumed and tested to confirm or debunk this theory, but no signs of poisoning were found. Number 1, Thomas Jefferson and the cold. A lesser-known conspiracy theory suggests that Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers and the 3rd President of the United States, concealed a secret illness, often described as a chronic cold. Some believe that this illness might have influenced his decisions and policies. However, this theory lacks solid evidence and is generally viewed as speculation.
What do you think about those theory seekers? That cool one with Thomas Jefferson got my mind thinking and turning.
9 things that have happened since Diddy was arrested. Leonardo DiCaprio left the country after photos and videos were released of him at Diddy parties. Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis have also left the country after photos and videos of Ashton surfaced at Diddy parties. Michael Jackson's death case has been reopened. Whitney Houston's death case has also been reopened. Beyonce lost 5 million followers and is being investigated.
I have to call cap on that one.
Tragically passed away. Netflix is already making a documentary about Diddy. Kardashians are under investigation. A $50 million bail has been denied and Diddy is in isolation. How do you think all of this will play out, and who else should be investigated in this case?
3 animals
seen how it played out.
We'll likely never know again. Number 3, the Steller's sea cow, a majestic marine mammal of immense size, once inhabited the serene coasts of the North Pacific. Just 27 years after its discovery in 1741, it was hunted to extinction, showcasing the vulnerability of the ecosystem and the devastating impact of human intervention. The swift disappearance of the Steller's sea cow offered little chance for in-depth study. Hence, it haunts marine life history records as a ghostly reminder of our past. Number 2, the great Auk, known as the northern penguin, was once a dominant figure in the North Atlantic, notable for its large size and inability to fly. This bird met an untimely end in the mid-19th century, hunted to extinction. It now stands as a powerful and enigmatic symbol of the devastation caused by human intervention, primarily through overhunting and inadequate conservation efforts, raising questions about our interactions with the natural world.
We're destroying it, man.
Number 1, the thylacine, also called the Tasmanian tiger, was an iconic species and the largest carnivorous marsupial of modern times. Native to the remote corners of Tasmania, Australia, and New Guinea, this captivating creature was officially declared extinct in the 20th century. Today, it exists only in photographs and tales, a chilling reminder of our planet's lost biodiversity and the irreversible loss we experience when a species is lost.
Let's see if you have nyctophobia. I'm going to show you 5 photos. Try your best to make it through all 5. Let's start the test. How does this dark hole make you feel?
I'm fine.
How about walking home at night alone? Walking down this hallway with no flashlight? Looking out of the window and seeing this?
What is that?
Or looking out at night to see this figure? So how did you do? Did you make it through all 5? If not, then you could have nyctophobia, which is the fear of the night or darkness. Let me know if you have nyctophobia in the comments below. And remember to hit the plus sign and follow me to see if you can make it through the next phobia test.
I got nyctophobia. I'm not scared of the dark. I'm scared what's in the dark.
7 people in this world that hold physical keys to the security of the internet. It's not like they control the internet, but like if one of them were to mess up, they could very well make very core parts of the internet just disappear. Less than 60% of the internet's traffic is human. Over 40% are bots, and 30% of that 40% are malicious and actively trying to go after you and your data. The internet created brand new reasonings for all sorts of things, but especially divorce. Like in 2011, became the year that over a third of divorce filings mentioned the word Facebook. The internet and all of the electrons that are holding the data weigh less than a grain of sand. And it's actually losing weight, it's getting skinnier, because in 2000 it weighed about the same mass of a strawberry. What does Wi-Fi stand for? Does anybody actually know before I say it?
Wireless internet?
It's a trick question. Wi-Fi doesn't actually stand for anything. They just called it that. The reason Facebook is just so blue is because Mark Zuckerberg is red-green colorblind.
She took her first bite of meat and suddenly craved human flesh. This is Raw, a shocking French horror movie about a girl named Justine who is a lifelong vegetarian and starts veterinary school. During a brutal hazing ritual, she is forced to eat raw rabbit liver for the very first time. At first, she gets violently sick, but then the cravings start. She can't stop thinking about meat, and soon, animal meat isn't enough. Her body begins to change, she scratches at her skin, and her hunger only grows. Everything spirals out of control when she accidentally tastes human flesh and realizes she likes it. At that moment, her cravings start to become uncontrollable, and the people around her notice that something is very wrong. This movie is bloody, disturbing, and unforgettable. Raw will leave you queasy and questioning your own appetite.
Prison cells in different countries. In Mexico, the prison cell.
Why is she striking a pose?
In China, the prison cell.
Some bunk beds?
In Russia, the prison cell. In Japan, the prison cell. In
Got
the
a
United
TV?
States, the prison cell. In Norway, the prison cell.
Got a view of outside?
In Brazil, the prison cell.
Ryan Kohberger, who murdered 4 University of Idaho students, will be put on trial in July. Let's talk about where he is now and all the events that happened leading up to the trial. Right off the bat, this case was really weird. He murdered 4 people inside of a campus rental in Moscow, Idaho. There were 2 others that were home that didn't even hear these 4 people getting murdered by him and getting stabbed to death. Those 2 were unarmed and they were ruled out as suspects. And everybody thought that was ridiculous when it first happened. Everyone thought it was those 2. He was eventually caught, but the weird thing about him, he had a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. The master's degree was in criminal justice. I know, very ironic here. Now, at the time of the murders, he was getting his PhD in criminology. People described him as quiet, but very intelligent and curious. However, many people noted he had a very anti-woman stance. He even got a warning from a bar about not talking to the women and not coming back because he was creeping everyone out. Before the murders happened in the house, he found a few of the girls on Instagram and messaged a couple of them with no response back. They didn't follow him back. This was just a couple weeks before the murder, so was he stalking them? There were just a few pieces of information that they had on him. One was that he had a white car. One other thing that was very important at the crime scene was a knife sheath. They found his DNA inside of that. He got pulled over twice after committing the murders. He was on a road trip with his dad. His dad obviously didn't know about the murders either. He was let go with verbal warnings both times that he got pulled over. Now obviously with the DNA, the evidence, and everything matching up, they decided to go after him for the third time. Now he's claiming he has an alibi on the night of the murders, that he went hiking to see the stars, but they're going to use his cell phone data to try to see if that lines up and if he's telling the truth. But with his DNA being in the knife sheath at the scene of the crime, I mean, I doubt that. He's currently staying at a local jail 300 miles away from where the murders were committed. He will stand trial in July, like I said. What are your opinions on this case? Anything stick out to you or weird you out about this case? Let me know. I think one of the stranger things about this case was that he was narrating that everything was going to be okay to himself without speaking to anyone. I feel like at that point the pressure was starting to get to him. He knew he was about to get cooked. We'll see what happens in July, though.
You saw that happen. He knew he's about to get cooked. It's over for him.
Do you guys remember this woman, Taylor Shabusiness? She just spoke with Law and Crime from prison, sharing the horrific graphic details of her crime. As a reminder, in 2022, Taylor Shabusiness murdered her partner, Shad Therion, during a, quote, drug-fueled sex rampage. She then dismembered his body and put his severed head in his mom's basement for her to discover. The discovery was made on February 23, 2022, and shortly after, Taylor Shabusiness was arrested and charged with Shad's murder. She initially pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but in 2023, she was deemed to have been sane when she committed the murder. Shabusiness was ultimately convicted of first-degree intentional homicide and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now this week, 2 years after her sentencing, Shabusiness spoke with Law and Crime in a phone call from prison. And in the call, she detailed what happened the night of Shad's murder, including what led up to the attack. And just a warning, this is graphic. I'm not including too much of the graphic content, but it is rough. This is an exact transcript of what Shabusiness said to Law and Crime. She said, "I went to my ex, who was a Satan disciple. We all Latin kings, so we beef and we don't F with SDs. She said she gave him money for drugs and he pocketed the cash. She said that Shad wanted to have intercourse before she left, so they went into the basement, and that's when he pulled out 2 chains, according to her. Then Shad told him that he didn't have her money. So she said, I took a chain and put it around his neck and asked him again, where my money at? Then she said he pocketed the money that I was supposed to have, so I went out and took his out with that." And then she said this, and I'm not even gonna read it. You can read it. Shabusiness said that Shad turned purple, but his heart was still beating, so she grabbed a knife from the kitchen upstairs, and that's when she committed that second part. She said she then dismembered his body, cleaned up the crime scene, and loaded some of the body parts into her trunk. She planned to get rid of the body, but was arrested before she could do so. In the phone call, Shabusiness also told Law and Crime that she is trying to appeal her conviction and get out of prison, but I don't think this phone call is going to help with those appeals. The fact that somebody could do this and then detail it so anecdotally is terrifying.
80% of the population has lines on their hands that spell out the letter M. Many people believe that this is a sign of good luck. However, 4% of people have an X on their palm. And about 25% of people in the world have something called photic sneeze reflex. This means they can sneeze on command just by looking up at the sun. And 3% of the population has no body odor. Now that's lucky. But about 1% has something called fish odor syndrome.
I would probably quit my job if I was a 911 dispatcher and I received a phone call from an empty funeral home at 3 in the morning. If you guys are easily scared of this kind of stuff, maybe skip through this part or don't watch this at night.
This is Erica. How can I help you?
This happened in Colorado a few years ago, and it's probably one of the creepiest things I've ever watched because not only did this 911 call go through the first time, but it gets disconnected, so the dispatcher calls back and the call gets answered at the funeral home. I mean, all you can really hear is loud static, but a lot of people have said that they can hear a soft male voice saying send help or help me. I listened to this audio multiple times, okay, and you can actually kind of hear it. But besides these noises, no one actually responds or has a real conversation with the dispatcher. And apparently that's because no one was actually inside the funeral home at that time. The cops arrived to the funeral home shortly after this call was made, and it turns out that it was closed. No one was in there, and they even followed up with the people that worked at this funeral home, and they told them that no one had been in there all night.
So who called?
Here's some crazy history that they didn't teach you in school. Nepal's second to last king spent his entire reign in a coma. The first ever recorded punishment for illegal parking was death, followed by impalement outside of one's home. All of Jimmy Carter's siblings and his father passed away of pancreatic cancer specifically. Lewis and Clark's crew left behind mercury-laced poop so toxic that it was able to help the archaeologists find their campsites. Leonardo da Vinci never gave the Mona Lisa to the person who commissioned it. He kept it with him until he died. There are multiple Mona Lisas that were created by Leonardo da Vinci. Of the 44 original colonists that founded Los Angeles, only 2 of them were white. These are pictures of statues of Vasuki, an African slave who arrived in Japan in 1579 and became the first black samurai. Air Canada used to have dance floors on their planes. This is a picture of tobacco company CEOs declaring under oath that nicotine is not addictive.
We knew that was cap. They was capping with... That was just a cap off, man. They was doing that for the money.
Creepy things you never knew. Bears in Russia sometimes become so hungry in the summer that they become desperate for food and go to cemeteries to feast on the recently buried corpses. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space. It lasted around 42 seconds. To this day, we don't know where that signal came from. If you're ever unsure with meeting up with someone and you want to stay safe, use publicdatacheck.com. It allows you to do background checks on anyone, and even has an unknown phone number lookup for those phone numbers that call you that aren't in your contacts. This has saved a lot of people from weird and strange situations. So check out publicdatacheck.com. If your immune system found out you had eyes, it would attack them until you go blind. In 2002, actor Anthony Starr received a 12-month prison sentence because he had a bar fight in Spain. Witnesses say he drunkenly punched and smashed a bottle on a chef's head, saying to him, "You committed the mistake of your life. I'm going to look for you. I want to..." you. He managed to avoid jail time by paying the victim $4,000. Now, if you made it to the end of this video, let me tell you a secret. Typing "scream" all lowercase with the bars around it like this will give you a secret emoji down below. Let's see who can actually do it.
We need to talk about how disrespectful this bird is. This is a secretary bird, and they kill prey by kicking them in the head until they either tap out or flatline. They especially violate snakes. They'll river dance on a snake's head until its skull caves in, and the secretary bird can kick with a force 5 times its own body weight. That's like the average man Ronaldoing someone with 900 pounds of force. Their kick is so powerful that they can actually shatter the bones in your hand. Also, they're like 4 feet tall. The secretary bird will stomp around vegetation and bushes just so they can skull snatch anything that tries to escape. They'll also purposely wait around bushfires so that if any small animal tries to run for its life, this bird will take it from it anyway by curb stomping them. And they can weak split their ops in 15 milliseconds, meaning in the time it takes for you to blink, they can strike multiple times. And like I said, they're 100% on site with snakes because they'll smash their heads in until they're either paralyzed or dead and then proceed to eat them. Also, this raptor can fly. Because of course they can. And they do all this while looking like a recently divorced velociraptor that got out of pocket with the child support. This is not a bird, it's Jurassic Park in yoga pants. With a thigh gap, y'all could never. Next time someone tells you dinosaurs went extinct, just remember this African homicide chicken tap dances on the graves of snakes, and anyone else that tries to test it.
Okay. It ain't a lesson today. Don't mess with that bird, man. That bird has black Air Force energy, bro. Noted.
These are some extremely
Where we at night?
This is why you should never sleep next to your phone. In 2019, a girl fell asleep listening to her favorite music on her phone. As most people do, she had her phone plugged into the outlet next to her bed. The next morning, the parents walked in and discovered that the phone that was next to her head had exploded. Before I tell you what happened to her, I found a way to finish your math homework in seconds. Just scan the math problem and it'll give you a solution along with an explanation. Press the button on my profile to try it. She was immediately immediately rushed to the hospital but unfortunately passed away due to her injuries.
Do not sleep with your phone next to you, in case stuff like
One
that
in
happens.
a Million, Part 7. On the right is the facial reconstruction of a 9,000-year-old skeleton that was found in a cave in Cheddar, England. His DNA was tested, and researchers found that a living relative was teaching history class only a half-mile away from the site, linking back 300 generations. Out of the 40,000 windows within the Twin Towers, only one of them survived 9/11. It's believed to have come from the 82nd floor of the South Tower, one of the 9 floors that was struck by the second plane. The first person to die during the construction of the Hoover Dam was surveyor J.G. Tierney on December 20th, 1922. On the same exact day, 14 years later, the last person died. It was J.G.'s son, Patrick Tierney. Uncombable hair syndrome is an extremely rare condition that literally makes the hair impossible to comb. It currently affects less than 100 people across the globe. A married couple from China discovered that they were in the same photograph as teenagers more than a decade before they even met. On July 4th, 1826, President John Adams' last words before dying were, "Thomas Jefferson survives." But little did he know, President Jefferson had died just hours earlier that same exact day. Not to mention it was exactly 50 years after the Declaration of Independence was passed.
Man.
Horses
Scary.
are much bigger than people, so naturally they just have a lot more blood than we do. So whenever horses get nosebleeds, it ends up looking like a whole crime scene. So one of the only reasons we know how many people died in the Titanic are the shoes that are laying on the ocean floor. Some are pretty cool, others are kind of depressing. And the reason we count the shoes instead of, bones is because when the Titanic hit the floor, all the corpses kind of just scattered and the fish ate the corpses, but the fish couldn't eat the shoes. If you ever decide to go climb Mount Everest, I hope that you remember that the crevices in the ice are V-shaped, which means if you were to ever accidentally fall down one, you more than likely wouldn't die instantly. Your body heat would melt the ice around you, causing you to slip further and further down until your chest couldn't expand enough to breathe. So make sure you bring a friend just as crazy as you to help get you out.
I ain't going to Mount Everest.
This is the world's smallest dog. Her name is Pearl, and she's a 2-year-old Chihuahua that lives in Central Florida. Pearl stands at 3.59 inches tall and weighs 1.2 pounds. She's shorter than a popsicle stick and around the same length as a $1 bill, and she can fit in the palm of your hand. Pearl was recently awarded the Guinness World Record for being the smallest and shortest dog in the world. She's a descendant of the previous world record holder, Miracle Millie, who is 3.8 inches tall, which is just 0.2 inches taller than Pearl. Pearl's owner describes her as a calm dog who likes to go for walks and play with her toys. She also said that Pearl loves the attraction she gets for being so tiny.
If you have one of these in your home, then you need to know this new chilling theory. TikTokers have claimed these new viral furry Labubus carry demonic energy, rumoured to be inspired by the demon Pazuzu. But Hot Mart insists they're based on a children's book. Labubu owners have now taken to blessing their dolls with holy water to banish any evil the new toys may hold.
Those Labubu dolls, man, I've been seeing them popping up, like they just seem like they just got popped out of nowhere. So
this is the disturbing moment this woman laughed in court after she took this 3-year-old's life in a random attack. On June 3rd, police received numerous phone calls about a stabbing at a grocery store parking lot in Ohio. At around 3 p.m. on this day, 38-year-old Margot Wood was loading groceries into her car while her 3-year-old son Julian sat in his car seat. That's when 32-year-old Bianca Ellis entered the car and began stabbing the little boy. When Margot noticed, she tried to stop the attack, and as a result she was also wounded. Julian was then rushed to the hospital where he unfortunately passed away. Now what's disturbing was that this was a random attack, and after looking at surveillance footage, the attacker was seen following the mother and the child in and out of the grocery store. Then when Bianca was brought into court, the judge began reading out the indictment, and she was seen smiling and laughing the entire time. And after an assessment was done on Bianca, they're arguing that she has bipolar disorder and had a psychotic break, which explains why she did what she did. And this story only gets crazier. Before this incident, Bianca confessed to another murder in Bakersfield, and she even gave details of what she did with this person's body. She also warned officers that if she wasn't arrested, she was going to murder someone and eat their flesh. But none of this was taken too serious, and she was released from the mental institution, and not long after she committed this heinous crime.
The most disturbing phone number in the world. Part 2. In 2005, in a quiet luxury neighborhood in California, laid a family of 6. The road they lived on is called Devil's Ladder, and things are about to take a demonic turn. The father is laying down one night at 3:30 in the morning while everybody in the house is sleeping. He gets up, picks up his 9mm pistol, and slowly starts creeping down the hallways. One by one, he shoots each of his children in the head while they're sleeping. He then made his way down to his last 2 victims. The last 2 victims of this heinous crime were his own mother and his wife. After everyone else in the house was dead, he made his way downstairs, picked up the cell phone, and made one last phone call. I was able to find the original phone number using Spy Dialer, and as you can see on your screen now, it says he's deceased and the number's disconnected. However, when you call this number today, this is what plays.
Okay, does anyone else hear footsteps? If so, whose footsteps are these?
Make sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
She was in the car when a brick came flying towards her.
A brick? Oh,
In 2012, 29-year-old Olga Dajkovic was riding in the passenger seat with her family. They were driving down a road in Russia just like any other day. Their car had a dash cam, not knowing what it was about to capture. In the video, a semi-truck passes by the family's car when a brick is seen flying in the air going towards Olga. The brick smashes the window and hits Olga in the head. Everyone in the car is screaming while Olga has been knocked out by that brick. Olga was rushed to the hospital but later died from her injuries. This is your reminder to be safe on the road and always be observant.
I'm stabbed.
Who would throw a brick on a like highway? People do not use their brains, man, anymore. Truly. They know what the result of that could be, right? So what's the point of doing that?
These were George Spencer Millett's last words. It was his birthday, and 15 unlit candles remained on his cake. 6 young ladies merrily chased him around the office for a birthday kiss. George tripped and fell. The laughter turned to screams as a pool of blood crept from underneath his chest. The sharp tip of a little erasing knife in his pocket had pierced his young heart. A short and bizarre description on the gravestone lays testament to his unusual demise. Kissed to death.
Just because you've known from a birthday kiss? I was
Disturbing facts that school never taught you. Part 2. The proper way to actually flush a toilet might shock you. After you use the restroom, you're supposed to get up, close the lid, and then flush. If you leave your toilet seat open while you flush, bacteria jumps up to 30 centimeters and lands all over your bathroom floor. A study was done that 1 out of 30 people actually close the lid before flushing. Languages are disappearing at a staggering rate. It's estimated that 1 language dies every 2 weeks. Could you imagine your language just completely vanishing? More than 2,500 left-handed people die every single year from using right-handed products. So if you're left-handed, just be a little bit more careful. The average mattress doubles in weight every 10 years due to the amount of poop in it. If you're receiving random phone calls from any sort of number in the world, you can use a website called spydialer.com. Spydialer allows you to type in any name, address, email, or phone number and find out who they really are. I honestly feel like schools needed to teach these because you never really know who's on the other end of that line until now. Make sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
Wealthiest person from each country. Japan.
Let's break this down.
Tadashi Yanai, $35 billion. Germany. Dieter Schwartz, $50 billion. Canada. David Thompson, $55 billion. China. Zhang Shanshan, $60 billion. Mexico.
El Chapo.
Carlos Slim Helú, $90 billion. France. Bernard Arnault, $190 billion. United States.
That's Elon Musk. Yeah.
Elon Musk, $210 billion.
All that money. What would you do, Seekers, if you had that amount of wealth? I can even imagine.
This is the horrifying truth of the Russian sleep experiment. The purpose was to get rid of the need for humans to sleep through the use of an experimental gas. 5 participants were locked in a chamber that was pumped with this no-sleep gas for 15 days. These men were all political prisoners and were fine after the first 5 days. But it was on the 9th day when one of the subjects started screaming so loud and ripped the vocal cords out of his throat. Another man started screaming as well, so the researchers went into the room and said they would free one person. But the prisoners looked back and said, "We don't want to be freed." The prisoners were going insane and literally started ripping off their skin. They were taken to a hospital where they enjoyed being cut into. They brought the last living 2 test subjects back to the chamber and said, "Who are you?" The subject answered, "We're the madness that lurks within you and the reason you hide in your bed every night."
Okay, we need our sleep.
How did this pigeon save the lives of 194 people? Normal photos, disturbing backstory. It's World War I, and a unit of 550 men are trapped behind enemy lines without food or ammunition, but their situation was about to get even worse. In the confusion, their own army began firing at the trapped men. Now they were under friendly fire and enemy fire. They sent out a desperate plea for help by a homing pigeon. The bird made it a couple of feet into the air before it was torn apart by gunfire. All hope seemed to be lost. But seconds later, a fluttering sound. The injured pigeon took flight again. Although it had a bullet wound, it was blinded in one eye and one leg was hanging on by a single tendon. The pigeon struggled back to base with a vital message, and the men were saved. That pigeon, named Cher Ami, meaning dear friend, survived the war and was awarded 2 medals for bravery.
It deserves it, truly. Damn, that was hard, bro. It's a leg. Was that injured and he still completed his mission?
This truck driver took the life of 5 people because he was distracted on TikTok. The morning of January 12, 2023, 36-year-old Danny Tyner was driving on Interstate 10 in Arizona when he drove his tractor trailer in to stop the traffic. This scene is so difficult to look at, but basically his truck sandwiched 2 other cars with another big truck at the front. These are the 5 victims that lost their lives on that day, and when Danny was asked what happened, he said that he looked down for a couple of seconds because he got a notification on his work tablet, and when he looked back up, there was not enough time to brake. But that wasn't true. When his phone was analyzed, it showed that he was actively using TikTok when the crash happened. Now, what I found disturbing was that during his interaction with police, he didn't seem too fazed. He was eventually charged with manslaughter and was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for each count of negligent homicide, which totaled to 22.5 years.
Here are some toy designers who failed miserably. This car says Austria, but has deserts and kangaroos on it. I think they meant Australia. And what is going on with these action figures? And this teddy bear looks normal until you see it without the sweater. I am a sweet baby, let's have fun together. It doesn't look like a sweet baby. What looks to be like a normal horse toy is actually a Barbie's head as the tail. Okay, but what is this Winnie the Pooh toy? It literally looks like it's wearing a grandma's dentures. And why is there an eyeball coming out of this teddy bear? Is this supposed to be Yoda? Come on, you had one job and you put the eye on backwards. What kind of dinosaur is this?
Born on the literal perfect day. Back in 2019, a baby girl was born on July 11th, making the date 7/11. Well, the baby was also born at 7:11 p.m., and the baby also weighed 7 pounds and 11 ounces. From this, the convenience store 7-Eleven saw this and gave the baby $7,111, making this baby the most 7-Eleven baby in history. Next, in 2022, this baby girl was born at one of the craziest times possible because she was born on February 22nd, 2022, which is 2/22/2022. But she was also born at 2:22 a.m. and she weighed 7 pounds and 10 ounces, which makes her a total 122 total ounces. And I can't forget that she was born in room number 2 of the hospital. This is absolutely wild.
We have some crazy
Yeah, that
things
was
going
crazy.
on in the world right now. A bride was late to her own wedding after an officer pulled her over for going 105 in a 45. A bus driver with over 30 years on the job lost his $84,000 pension after he was caught stealing $7. Thanks to appearances in music videos and commercials, technically Taylor Swift's cat Olivia has a higher net worth than her boyfriend Travis Kelce. An Air India crew member downgraded a passenger from first class and then used that seat to sleep. A 19-year-old man was sent to prison for 8 months after making a bomb threat to a cruise that his girlfriend was on because he admitted he was annoyed that he had to take care of her pets. Meteorologists could not use damage to determine the strength of a recent tornado that went through Michigan because the Amish communities that this tornado mostly affected repaired their homes too quickly. After a man saved for 10 years to buy his dream Ferrari, it went up in flames less than an hour after it was delivered.
This is a bittersweet.
Nah, just imagine that, man. You saving up, you stocking up. Everything, every freaking penny, dime, nickel, man, to get that Ferrari in working class and for it to end up in flames after you get it. I'm like, man, the universe hates me. I guess that was a sign, man.
Sweet case. On February 1986, 29-year-old detective Stephanie Lazarus broke into her ex-boyfriend's house and murdered his wife Sherry Rasmussen in a fit of rage and jealousy. Stephanie successfully got away with murder for 23 years due to connections with the Los Angeles Police Department. Despite there being evidence against her, she was barely questioned. The crime was initially deemed to be a robbery gone wrong, but Sherry's family was convinced that Stephanie was involved since she was jealous that Sherry and John were happily married. When John returned home from work that evening, Sherry was found shot multiple times in the chest. Reports show that Stephanie had threatened Sherry at her workplace, stating, "If I can't have John, then nobody else will." In the meantime, Stephanie went on to start her own private investigation firm, and the case went cold. But 23 years later, on February 2009, a cold case detective squad decided to reinvestigate the case, and that's when they discovered that DNA was obtained from a bite mark on Sherry's body. And of course, that bite mark was a perfect match to Stephanie Lazarus. On March 8, 2012, Stephanie was convicted and sentenced to 27 years to life in prison and will be eligible for parole in 2039.
2025 just got even crazier, part 4. Firstly, in Poland, 240 mines were accidentally sent to an IKEA, and apparently the mishap only came to light when the IKEA store called the military to ask when they were going to pick up these mines from their IKEA warehouse. From this, an army general was fired for losing these mines. Next, we all know about this TikTok ban that is happening. Well, it's kind of backfiring, because thousands and thousands of TikTok users are switching to the Chinese app RedNote, and from this, Duolingo has seen a 216% spike in users in the US learning Mandarin. Finally, stealing has got so bad in some areas, some stores are starting to literally lock up everything, like regular items like chips. So now, you literally have to get an employee just to get a chip bag.
That's so sad, man. But I still remember that channel. Remember when people were like licking the ice cream?
These maps are going to change the way you see the world. This is how much income you're gonna need to join the top 1% in every US state. California makes it easy. It's just 1 million solid. Yeah, easy. So it looks like the highest is actually in Connecticut with 1.2 million. That's fascinating, actually. The lowest is in West Virginia. You only need $420,000 a year to be in the top 1%. Yeah, I know I say only, it's a lot of money, but also relatively, it's cool. Yeah, we're all doomed, so it doesn't matter. This is just a map of the Midwest. Yeah, it's definitely in the West and in the middle because it's the Midwest. This was the first transcontinental railroad that was completed in 1869. You now could cross the country within a week instead of multiple months. That was dangerous. Interesting that there was an Oregon Trail and a California Trail. So this map shows that the entire area of Manhattan is smaller than the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. This map divides the world into 4 equal quadrants and shows that the Northeast has almost 3 out of 4 people on Earth. It says 13% in the Northwest, but only 5% of that is in the United States, which is the same as the 5% in the Southwest. 86% of all humans live in the top side of this quadrant.
Let's see if you have trypophobia. I'm going to show you 5 photos. If you feel too uncomfortable to make it to the 5th photo, then you could have trypophobia. So let's go. Number 1. And how about this?
I'm cool.
Feeling uncomfortable yet? Nearly there. Last one. So let me know whether or not you have trypophobia in the comments down below.
I passed that with flying colors, man.
He performed plastic surgery on himself after murdering his teacher. In 2006, 22-year-old British teacher Lindsay Hawker moved to Tokyo to teach English at Chiba University. A year later, 28-year-old student Tetsuya Ichihashi asked Lindsay if he could receive private lessons from her. Lindsay agreed, and they met at a coffee shop a few days later for their first session. At the end of the session, Tetsuya told Lindsay he forgot his money at home and asked her to go back to his place to pick it up and pay her. So that's exactly what they did, and unfortunately, Lindsay never made it out of Tetsuya's apartment. Lindsay was reported missing the next day, so police went to Tetsuya's apartment and saw him escape by foot. When police entered Tetsuya's balcony, they found Lindsay's deceased body in a bath full of sand. Tetsuya then went into hiding for 2 years and a half, and he went to extreme measures to avoid authorities, such as physically changing his appearance himself. This included cutting off the moles from his face with a knife, trimming his lips to make them thinner, and reshaping his nose. All these changes allowed Tetsuya to be undetected for years, but his attempt to alter his appearance even more led to his arrest when a cosmetic doctor became suspicious about his scars and reported him to police. At Tetsuya's trial, he confessed to everything and was sentenced to life in prison.
This is the scary story about the park. There was a girl named Anna who was walking around a park one day when she saw a man carrying a woman, and he also had a kid right next to him. Anna thought it was odd that a man was carrying a full-grown woman around the park, so she went up to him and asked if everything was okay. The man said that it was his wife, and that she was sick and tired, but she was fine. Anna then said, "I hope she feels better," and then walked away. Anna then sat down on a bench nearby, and a couple minutes later, the man's child came running over to her and said, "Mommy's dead. Daddy killed Mommy. He's been carrying her dead body around the park all day." Anna sat there in shock as the man came over and got his kid, with his dead wife still slung over his shoulders.
Okay, that's weird. Call the cops then, man. The kid letting you
And the
know.
bodies of 9-year-old Peyton Decker, 8-year-old Evelyn Decker, and 5-year-old Olivia Decker were found deceased near Washington campground after they were reported missing by their mom. The girls left home for a planned visitation with their father on May 30th. Their bodies were found on June 2nd. Their cause of death has been ruled a suffocation. The manner of death has been ruled a homicide. Their father, 32-year-old Travis Decker, is a primary suspect, and he is currently on the run as we speak. On Friday, May 30th, the girl's mother called for help around 9:45 p.m. She said her girls were at their planned visit with their father, but he failed to return the girls on time, and she got worried and she needed help. The case is ongoing. There's a manhunt currently out for Travis Decker, the father. I'm not a lawyer. No one has been arrested yet. All this information is information that I found on the internet, and if I get anything wrong, please comment in the comments and we can figure it out together. Also, please keep in mind, please, this is a real case. People are mourning the deaths of these poor girls and they're hurt, so if you don't have anything nice to say, do not say anything at all. We know from the mother.
Breaking news, when Brian Kohberger was arrested, he asked one of the arresting officers if he wanted to go get coffee at another time. In these documents, Ann Taylor is trying to prove that Brian Kohberger does not have the ability to understand the magnitude of what he did. As an example of that, she states the following. She said, by way of example, when he was arrested at home with a full SWAT team, doors broken, and parents were zip-tied, he made small talk with the detective in the back of the police car on the ride to the police station. He asked the officer about his education and suggested that they get coffee at a later date. She said he did not perceive the profound seriousness of what was going on and he did not have perception of what was happening. She said they now have experts to analyze his issues. In addition, here is an up-close image of the drawing that Dylan provided of the mask she saw Brian Kohberger wearing the night she ran into him in the home. Furthermore, the April 9th hearing has been changed. You will no longer be able to locate...
This is the most terrifying space photo ever. This is a real photo of astronaut Bruce McCandless. He is floating around 100 meters away from the space shuttle, and he's not wearing any tether connection or harness, meaning he could easily float away into the abyss of space. But why did he do such a dangerous thing? Well, in 1984, he was testing a space jetpack. So he stepped out of the Challenger space shuttle and, using the jetpack, flew away from the shuttle, flying alone into the dark abyss of space. Bruce was later asked about his experience. He said, "The thing that disturbed me most was, as I floated away from the shuttle, I felt extremely cold." He also said the silence of being alone was very scary. In this photo, he literally is the loneliest person in the universe.
That's different, man. Space jetpack, like I said, one more mistake, you floating out in space. The deep, dark abyss of space for the rest of your life. You have to be a brave person, man, to take on that job. I don't know if I can know. I know I can do that. That ain't me.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. God.
Okay, so that's just a puppet, but you know it's not? Meet the Tibetan fox. The fox nature designed strictly for memory. The Lord makes no mistakes, but sometimes he uses his left hand. That's how you get a fox straight out of Courage the Cowardly Dog. We're not entirely sure why it looks like amateur taxidermy, but some say it's a character development that comes with living on the very roof of the world. Apparently that's the peak physique, when your address is up to 5,000 meters or 16,000 feet up in the air. The highest point in the US, not in Alaska, is just under 15,000. The result is an AI-generated pika predator. Pika basically being the popcorn chicken of rabbits. And the main thing on this Timu Fox's grocery list. Sometimes this uncanny valley Vulpes goes on a two-man with bears, where the bears dig the prey up and the funny-in-the-face fox runs them down. All while having the expression of immigrant parents to a firstborn, terminally disappointed and remarkably unimpressed. I still love you, Mom. Except when they're about to murk a marmot. That's enough to make him hit the Heisman. And despite the free-handed by Faith Fox proving that 5-year-old me can draw, they actually look pretty normal as pups. And the way you see them might change when you see how little they are next to us. Because when you live in God's snowed-in Tibetan attic with the windows open, it's best to be small. In fact, the best theory is that protection from the constant wind is why they look like that. Something about preserving moisture in the eyes. But it also means you can get side-eyed looking dead in this fur emoji's face, the more you know.
I don't know if I can visit Mexico.
Yeah.
Why?
Bro, they have the scariest urban legends.
For real?
Yeah, they got La La Chuza, which is a shape-shifting witch that looks like an owl and is 7 feet tall with the face of a woman. And you're not supposed to go outside if you hear whistling in your window.
What else?
Oh, and La Llorona. She usually stays near bodies of water. She wears a white gown, long hair, and she's always crying for her children that she actually drowned. So you're next if you see her while driving on the side of the road.
Oh my god.
There's like this abandoned Disney park in Veracruz, Mexico.
What about it?
It has a statue that moves at night. There was 2 people exploring the abandoned park and caught it on video. Fam, you gotta check this out.
No, aguanta. Deja que mi cámara enfoque bien, deja que mi cámara enfoque bien. Deja que mi cámara enfoque bien, güey, eso no es el velador. No digas perras mamadas, no digas mamadas. Güey, es que era el vestido también así, güey. Amarillo.
And it's static, frozen. I'm good on Mexico.
But they do have beautiful women.
You right, we might have to risk it.
This 14-foot tiger shark would vomit up something that would terrify visitors and force shocked aquarium owners to call the police. Bert Hobson was in trouble. As the owner of the Coogee Aquarium in Sydney, his business was struggling. His prayers were answered when he caught a monster 14-foot tiger shark weighing over a ton. Hopefully this would draw in the crowds. One sunny morning, the aquarium packed with visitors, the shark began to writhe and convulse. Eventually it vomited a rat, then a bird, then finally a whole human arm, complete with tattoos. Police attended and took fingerprints from the dismembered arm. The database matched them to a missing person, Jimmy Smith. Police interviewed one of Jimmy's friends. He cracked and revealed the full gruesome story of exactly what happened. Jimmy was involved in an insurance scam. He became greedy and tried to blackmail one of the other gang members before he went missing. The rest of his body was never found.
So they just fed it to the tiger shark?
Tonight's premiere starts at 9. We're giving away a free gift bag on YouTube. I'm sorry for the delay. It's about an hour late, but this video is one you don't want to miss. We're hunting the spirit of one of the most notorious criminals in American history, cult leader Jim Jones. Yes, we actually spent the night at his childhood church investigating this property, and it's rumored to be a location haunted by demonic entities. The energy that we captured on camera inside of the building, the evidence, is astounding stuff. It's some of the clearest, most definitive, most disturbing paranormal activity that I've ever caught on camera. But the video premiere starts tonight at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, so I will see all of you guys there. make sure you leave a comment, like the video, and if you want to be entered to win the gift bag this week, comment Jim Jones on the video and like the video. Anyways, guys, I'll see you in a few hours, and yeah, this is not one you want to miss.
So check that out, man. The Paranormal Files. He be hunting at paranormal activity, so
one of my biggest fears is finding something like this on my camera roll. The photo actually comes from Kelsey Surt back in 2013. She was a 17-year-old at the time, and she was browsing her camera roll when she found something that she didn't recognize, and that was this photo. It was a picture that she didn't take, but she could tell from the background that this was taken in her room. Police would review the info card on this photo where they see that it was taken at 1:39 p.m. That didn't make sense because Kelsey knew that for this date and this time she had her phone on her at school, which meant that whoever did take this photo of themselves, they also had the foresight to go in and change the date and the time that it was taken to throw off the investigation. Police also go in to try to brighten up the photo, right, digitally enhance it, but even with this version, they cannot successfully identify who this is. Are they wearing a mask? Is that a person? But whoever took the photo and why just remains an unknown.
Scariest urban legend from each state, part 4. Robert the doll from Florida. A young boy named Eugene was gifted this doll as a birthday present. Eugene had Robert sleep next to him every single night, until a random night where Eugene woke up and saw Robert sitting across the room from him. After that night, things changed. They noticed every night that they heard footsteps in the attic, and something running up and down the stairs. He was inhabited by some demonic spirit, even having the neighbors say that they saw Robert looking through the window of the attic every single night. Robert is currently in an extremely safe spirit box in the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. It's stated if you make eye
was kidnapped and sacrificed by a cult that believed human sacrifice would protect their drug smuggling business. This is Mark Kilroy. He was a 21-year-old UT Austin student. Him and many other classmates were vacationing in South Padre. They found him and 14 other remains of other people. This cult was absolutely sick in the head. He was sodomized and tortured before they murdered him. He was then killed with a machete blow to the head. His brain was taken out and then boiled in a pot. After police discovered the remains, they arrested 4 cult members and hunted down the leader. The leader literally informed everyone that human sacrifice would protect their drug smuggling business, like I said, and it granted them immunity from law enforcement. I'm not sure where he got that from. When police had Costanzo cornered, he ordered a follower to shoot him. Like I said, most of the cult members were arrested, only 2 escaped and are still at large today. The media immediately labeled these people as Satanists. Although they didn't practice Satanism, it was something else. They also engaged in cannibalism with their victims. It was insane. Imagine being on spring break, getting kidnapped, tortured, and sacrificed by a cult and having your brain boiled in a pot. Not that you would be conscious or alive to know what's going on, but that is one of the most horrific ways to go out. What are your opinions on the story? Let me know.
Truly is, man. It shows, man, when people get that type of manipulation, they'll believe anything. You really told them they had immunity
His
from the
attacker
police.
used his head as a soccer ball. 15-year-old Michael Moss lived in Liverpool, had a happy childhood, and had an interest in mechanics. His mother stated that he wasn't very academic, but he could take a bike apart and put it back together, and he really loved motorbikes. When Michael was only 11 years old, his father passed away and his whole world was turned upside down. He was deeply affected by his father's death, and quickly at school, his behavior became disruptive and he was excluded. Because of that, Michael started attending a pupil referral unit that helped children with special educational needs before he was sent to a children's home to give his mother a break. It was there in 1999 when Michael would meet his future killers, his bullies, Alan, Mark, and Graham. Michael tried to keep a distance from these boys, but when he started dating Alan's ex-girlfriend, things would take a turn. Alan was not happy about this, and he would do anything to get revenge. Those 3 boys got together, drank alcohol, and watched Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs and got a plan into action. At 1 in the morning, Michael got a phone call from those 3 boys that they had a motorbike and they wanted him to look at it, and since he had a love for motorbikes, he was not going to say no, so unfortunately, he fatally took the bait. Michael had left the children's home where he was staying at and arrived at Moss Lane Park, and this is when he was ambushed. The 3 boys laid Michael on the floor and they each took turns kicking his head like a soccer ball. Michael's injuries were so severe that he was just unrecognizable. Michael did pass away from his injuries, and once his mother found out what had happened to him, she was heartbroken. As the investigation started, there was already evidence against the 3 boys, and Graham had actually turned himself in after he had told his mother what he had did as well as the other boys. July 26 of 2000, the 3 boys were found guilty. Alan and Mark were sentenced to 10 years in prison, while Graham was sentenced to 9 years.
If you hate clowns, this movie is really gonna get you. I just got out of seeing Clown in a Cornfield, and man, this movie was so much fun. Now, I've also read the book written by Adam Cesar, and I'm here to tell you it is an excellent and faithful adaptation of the novel. Quinn has just moved to Kettle Springs, and it's very obvious from the beginning something is not right. With an already growing major divide between the adults and the youths of the town Kettle Springs, you'd think that'd be bad enough, but now there is a clown in a cornfield. And y'all really don't want to fuck with Friendo. This was such a fun slasher movie, which was perfect because the book felt exactly the same tonal wise, and it harkens back to the good old slashers of the 80s and 90s. And a major reason for that is Friendo himself. This clown is iconic, he's awesome looking, and terrifying as hell. And the best part is, it's palatably scary for most audiences going to see it. Take your friends and family and just have a good time watching a killer clown run through a cornfield hacking up the teenagers. It's got its own unique twists and turns, and I absolutely love Frendo's just fit and vibe. Also, I need one of these Jack in the Boxes, or Friendo in a Boxes. I need it. Clown in a Cornfield opens this weekend in theaters, and please do not miss this excellent slasher that is fun for frickin' everybody.
This disturbing image may not look real, but it very much is. This is a picture of Rhoda Derry, and I'm going to tell you her sad and tragic story. Rhoda Derry was born on October 10, 1834 in Adams County, Illinois. She lived a pretty normal life in a well-to-do farming family. Like any other teenage girl, when she was 16, she fell in love and began a romantic relationship with a boy who happened to live on the farm next door. The boy's parents weren't fond of their relationship, and it really went south when they found out their plans to marry a couple years later. They believed that Rhoda may be involved in witchcraft, a tale that dated back to her grandmother, Mary Derry of Pennsylvania. The story surrounding her grandmother frightened Rhoda, and matters were only made worse when the boy's mother came to her and told her to stay away, and if not, she would curse her. This is when things went south for Rhoda. She had a severe mental breakdown and eventually grew to believe that an evil spirit called Old Scratch was haunting her. She was hospitalized, but was deemed incurable, so she was returned back home to her parents. Her parents tried to care for her, but it became too much, so she was sent to Adams County Almshouse when she was 25 years old on September 3, 1860. The almshouse was known for treating patients inhumanely, and for 4 decades Rhoda was subjected to horrific conditions. A report from the General Assembly in 1881 indicated that Rhoda spent most of her time naked inside of a wooden box filled with straw. Her excrement filled the box and mice built nests around her. Rhoda sat in the box in a crouched position with her knees up to her chin. Because she sat in this position for so long, she eventually lost movement in her legs. She was constantly moving as well, so she had bruises all over her body. She even punched her face and knocked out her teeth, as well as gouged out her eyes. To make matters even worse, Rhoda could not speak. In 1904, she was sent to Bartonville Asylum. She was bathed daily and slept in a bed for the first time in decades. On October 9, 1906, the day before her 72nd birthday, she passed away. Rest in peace, Rhoda Derry.
And a haunting, it really messed with her.
This new UK ban is gonna ruin a lot of kids' lives. Sorry guys, if you're still in school or your kids are still in school, then I feel bad for you. Probably know there's been the whole talk about social media bans and stuff for years. Of course, Australia started implementing it last year. More recently, there's been a lot of these petitions popping up in the UK saying social media should be banned under 16, and it's got a lot of signatures. Now it's being called for a bit more officially though, with the government looking into it, police chiefs, and well, here's the latest. Looks like very soon there are going to be time limits and bans coming into place, so yeah kids, I'm sorry. First of all, kids who are under 16, they're not going to be banning it completely, but there are going to be time limits. So you're only going to be allowed to use 2 hours on social media every single day. And after 10 PM at night, you won't be able to go on any of it whatsoever. As people have been saying, this raises a lot of concerns because, well, some kids use things like WhatsApp to communicate with family and that, which counts as social media. Of course, there's also a lot of people who think this is a very good thing and kids need to have less time on their phone and social media. I'm also not sure how they're going to get around certain things though to make this fully official, because everybody would just use a VPN or pretend they're a different age. But let me know your thoughts if this is a good or a bad thing, and as always, I'll keep you updated.
What do you guys think on that one, Seekers? Good thing we limited the kids' social media time? Or you think that's an invasion of privacy? They're going a step too far. You gotta protect the kids out here though, so they're just doing anything they can.
disturbing discovery tonight where investigators say a remote cave contains what may be the largest collection of crime scene evidence in state history.
Illinois' darkest secret just crawled out of the shadows. A cave packed with over 3,000 blood-soaked shoes, apparently spanning 300 years of disappearances.
We're seeing blood patterns consistent with violent trauma. The preservation conditions in the cave have kept some samples remarkably intact.
And the nightmare's just beginning. What began as a hiker's social media post has become a massive forensic investigation. On June 12th, a local college student exploring off-trail discovered the cave containing footwear ranging from 18th century moccasins to modern athletic shoes, nearly all with traces of blood.
The amount of shoes inside that cave is still unknown, but what I find most strange is why haven't we found these bloody shoes until now?
Forensic analysis has already matched DNA from several shoes to missing persons cases. The oldest confirmed match dates to 1792, a frontiersman who disappeared while surveying the area.
This isn't just a crime scene, Tide. It's a timeline of disappearances stretching from pioneer days to the digital age. The consistency is what's truly terrifying.
Hollow Vale Cave has become more than just a crime scene. It's a time capsule of tragedy, holding secrets from America's frontier past to the digital age. For investigators, the work is just beginning. For families of the missing, this discovery could mean answers centuries in the making. As hashtag Bloody Shoes continues to trend, let us know what you think in the comments below.
This is a true horrifying story.
Scary
Part
story.
82. This story took place in Cardiff, the capital of Wales. The story happened to a Muslim brother. It happened this month. And I urge everyone watching this to keep this brother in your prayers and your du'as. He also requested that we don't use his real name. So I'll give him a false name for the sake of this story and call him Ahmed. Ahmed is 20 years old. He is a second-year college student and he works part-time as a delivery driver. He had an order to deliver in an area called Pentrubane. It's an old village with nothing on the way there, just bushes and trees right and left. Now, Ahmed has bladder issues. Ever since he was young, every time he needed to use the toilet, he wasn't able to hold it for too long. On his way to Pentrubane, he had to use the toilet urgently, and there was nothing on the way there, so he stopped his vehicle, went inside the bushes, and peed on one of the bushes. After he was done, he hopped back on his vehicle and proceeded towards the delivery point. On that same night, Ahmed went to bed, and while he was sleeping, he was awakened by a feeling of someone suffocating him. He was paralyzed, but his eyes were wide open. He saw a dark, slender-like figure that wrapped his hands around Ahmed's neck. He would get attacked every single night by this demon. He would also dream of the same demon haunting his little siblings. This demon was very upset with Ahmed. Some of you may not know why this is happening. Jinns come in various forms, powers, types, and sizes. Some live in caves, some in the ocean, and some in bushes. When you sabotage their homes, they will do everything they can to hurt you. When you burn a bush or spill hot water on a bush or even pee in a bush, they will try to kill you. I will leave this to our brother Mu'min Abu Mecca to teach you what you must do to prevent being stuck in a situation like this.
So don't pee on bushes. Noted, okay. I think we've all done that. At least I guess once in my life now.
Is truly haunting. On February 25th, 1957, authorities received a call of a mysterious box in the woods outside of Philadelphia. They were horrified to find the remains of a young boy who seemed to be about 4 to 6 years old. He was malnourished and covered in bruises, and his cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma to the head. Not only is his case a mystery to this day, his identity has still never been found.
That's weird. even with today's technology?
This is considered one of the most shocking cases in Polish history. On January 6, 1999, a sailor in Poland noticed something strange floating on the river. It was long and pale and it smelled very bad. And as he leaned in closer to get a better look, he saw an ear attached to it. Now, what I'm about to say next is very disturbing, so be warned. After the sailor found this substance, DNA testing then indicated it was the skin of a missing woman named Katarzyna Zawada. And whoever did this to her turned her skin into a suit and was likely wearing it. So at this point, only her skin was found. Until January 14th, when pieces of her clothing and one leg was found also in the river. 17 years later, 52-year-old Robert J. was arrested for this. He previously worked in a dissection lab, meaning he was skilled in preparing animal skin. And he allegedly also knew the victim. As of October 2022, 23 years since the victim was found, Robert J. is still awaiting trial. As he remains in custody, investigators are allegedly gathering more evidence to solve the case. Follow for more.
So he's wearing a human skin suit. He skinned her alive and he was wearing her suit like a shapeshifter or something like that. Something you had out of a horror movie. Think about that, man. That's gonna rattle in your head for a while.
This is Charles Manson. He was the leader of the infamous commune/cult known as the Manson family. After spending his youth in and out of reform schools, Manson's first prison sentence came in 1956. He spent the next 11 years in and out of prison. In 1967 he was released from prison again and made his way to San Francisco. He became a sort of spiritual guru, with him and his followers, typically young women, being known as the Manson family. They created a home at Spahn Ranch in 1968. In July 1969, Gary Hinman was killed by the family. In August 1969, Sharon Tate, girlfriend of director Roman Polanski, was killed by the family. She was 8 months pregnant. The family also killed Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojtek Frykowski, Stephen Parent, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, and Donald Shea. The murders were allegedly on the back of Manson's orders. There's so much more to this story and its background, so let me know if you'd like a part 2.
Yeah, the freaking cult doing all that for him, man. Manipulations.
One bone-chilling night in 1973, the two young McDaniel children claimed to see a creature lurking around their house. This isn't my typical true crime case, however, this story is too freaky not to talk about. The father actually didn't believe his children until one night when he heard something scratching at the side of their house. When shining the flashlight, it showed a human-like creature. Mr. McDaniel actually claimed it had 3 legs on it, a short body, 2 little short arms, and 2 pink eyes as big as flashlights. His story freaked the town out so much that police actually threatened that if he didn't stop talking about this creature, they would arrest him. By the time all of this was over, 5 men actually had been arrested because they fired shots into the air when they thought that they saw the creature.
They're gonna arrest him for telling a story? That doesn't make sense at all.
This woman literally chopped her baby's arms off with a kitchen knife, all because God told her to. Dina and John Schlosser lived in Plano, Texas with their 3 daughters, ages 9, 6, and 10 months old. On November 22nd, 2004, John got a call from Dina saying she'd just cut off their baby's arms. He thought she was joking, even though Dina had a history of mental illness. Regardless, when you hear a claim like that, it should be taken seriously. Instead of calling the police, John called the pastor of his church. The pastor told John to call someone who can check on Dina and their baby Margaret to make sure everything is okay. He then called his neighbor Carolyn, who worked at a daycare center in the area, and asked for them to check on Dina and Margaret. Carolyn called Margaret on the phone, and that's when things started to get real. It's unclear what the phone call entailed, but whatever it was, it led a fellow daycare employee to call the police. 911 dispatcher Steve Edwards then called Dina to see if everything was okay. Dina picked up the phone and calmly told Steve she just cut off her baby's arms. Steve asked Dina if she wanted to help her baby, and she smugly said no. As if this woman didn't already seem crazy enough, Steve said he heard church hymns playing in the background. Like, what is this woman's deal? With that, police officers and paramedics rushed to the scene. Officer David Tilley was the first to arrive. He found Dina covered in red fluid with a gash on her shoulder and a 9-inch kitchen blade in her hand. One report said she was sitting at her computer table, casually reading her Bible with the gospel song "He Touched Me" playing in the background. Oh my god, this is like straight out of a horror movie. David was able to convince Dina to hand him the blade, and when she did, he noticed pieces of flesh on it. Ugh, I bet his stomach was in knots. More officers showed up, and they found the almost 11-month-old baby Margaret in her crib in the back bedroom. Sadly, the claims were true. Margaret's arms had indeed been cut off, and she was losing fluid quickly. Margaret was rushed to the hospital while officers interviewed Dina. Dina showed absolutely no emotion during her interview. She admitted to cutting off her baby's arms with a dazed look in her eyes. Apparently, Dina saw this story on the news about a lion attacking a young boy and took it as a sign of the apocalypse. God then commanded her to cut off the arms of her baby, and she obeyed. Dina also said God told her to cut her arms off after that, which is why she had the wound on her shoulder. During her interview, Dina was praying. She said, "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord." She was also humming church hymns. It's so messed up. As for Margaret, it was too late to save her. Not only were both of her arms completely severed at the shoulder, but Margaret also had over 50 wounds on her face.
That's somewhat of a horror story, man.
These serial killers got caught because of stupid mistakes they made. And I cover all sorts of true crime and spooky stuff here, so make sure you follow along. Dennis Rader was a prolific serial killer in Kansas from 1974 to 1991. He was called BTK, which stood for bind, torture, kill, because that's what he liked to do. But he also liked to taunt the police. He would send the police letters signed BTK, which could not be traced back to his real identity. So in the early 2000s, he had been dormant for over 10 years, but he still liked to taunt the police. And the early 2000s also brought new technology for communicating. So BTK, being the mad genius he was, wrote a letter to police asking if he sent them a floppy disk, would they be able to trace it back to him? And the police answered this letter basically saying, no, we totally can't do that. So BTK sends the police a floppy disk, and there's metadata on this floppy disk that says the last edit was done by someone named Dennis at Christ Lutheran Church. And then a 10-second Google search showed police that Dennis Rader was the president of the council at Christ Lutheran Church. Afterwards, the police basically came out and said that if Dennis had just kept his mouth shut and kept murdering, they probably would have never caught him. Let me know if you want more of these, because there's some other idiots out there.
He was doing it for 10 years. New technology gets introduced. He tried to taunt them again, man. I never got that concept. You do like something that horrific and then you just want to taunt people for it. They basically lied, Cap saying, no, we can't track you, knowing that they could, and that led to his downfall. Hubris. I wonder how many other freaking people got caught because of that. Got too
I wanted
confident.
to kill my mother since I was 8 years old, and I'm not proud of that. A month later, I'm up living with my grandparents in the mountains, and 10 months later, I murdered them. It made it worse to be on top of a mountain. I was literally on top of a mountain when it happened. And I sensed everybody in the world just stopping what they were doing, turning around, saw what I did, and are coming to get me. And I knew I was paranoid at that moment. I knew anybody that came up there and gave me a funny look or a fishy eye or quizzical look, I'd have blown their brains out thinking they were coming to get me. And if it had been in a city, I would have been a mass murderer at age 15. I would have killed until they gunned me down. I wouldn't have been able to reason my way out of it. I was scared to death, and I was violent. I felt my back hit that wall. I was the rabbit that always ran, that always backed away, always burned his bridges. Suddenly there weren't any more, and my back hit that wall, and I came out screaming and kicking and shooting.
That was really dark.
Now, a lot of people have been tagging me in this video, so I'm here to explain the backstory to this whole thing. This is the case of Lauren McCluskey. Now, the girl you see in this video was a 21-year-old college student in Utah. On October 22nd, 2018 at 9:55 p.m., she was found dead in her dormitory. She was shot 7 times. That afternoon, her ex-boyfriend waited for her outside her dormitory for had scholarships to choose from. Like and follow for more.
So what happened? Was it... That's not horrifying. happened at the Appalachian Mountains?
The woman was not dead. Miraculously, she survived just unimaginable. Her name is Charla Nash. Charla almost always covers her face with a hat and scarf. She wears it, she says, because she doesn't want to scare people.
Carla Nash. To go on to that story. Says she doesn't want to scare people. What happened? Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support. You guys, make sure you comment on the video down below. Hit that post notification bell, man, to always get notified when I upload my next video. You guys are going to catch you in the next video, Seekers. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.